So this is some of the topics that we're going to be covering today. Photoview360 2011. We also kind of branch out a little bit into some of the stuff that's part of SOLIDWORKS standard is now too. Photoview360 is part of the professional or the premium, or if you maintained your license from when PhotoWorks was sold separately, you would actually get the Photoview for the 2011 release. Going through the topics, we're going to be talking about the new Display Manager tab, looking at appearances, lights, scenes, decals. We'll go in more depth into those items a little bit later, but I want to show you that new tab. Then also Photoview360. We'll talk about the where PhotoWorks is, where the Photoview standalone is. Also the new Command Manager tab. There's a render tools. We'll take a look at it. And then also we'll start looking at some of the preview window, integrated preview, and then we'll get into the options, and then we'll really dig into the appearances, scenes, decals, and then also a little bit more on lighting, and then depending on time we'll take a look at a few other options here as well. Alright, so the new Display Manager tab shows up right where your Command Manager tabs are in your property dialog and your configuration tab. So there's a new tab that shows up over there. It contains your scenes, which makes up your backgrounds and your environments. Backgrounds are what's physically your scene in the background, and then your environment is what's controlling the lighting conditions. So if you bring in models that are from a previous release, it's still going to reuse your lightings and your scenes and stuff, but it's going to show up in here, and it may not be exactly the same way that you're used to. Lighting, we also have the control of adding lighting, and then also changing those conditions and stuff. We also have setting up cameras as well for doing specific views and that type of thing. And then also the new walkthrough feature. We actually don't cover the walkthrough feature in this webcast. We covered it in one of our other What's New webcasts this season. But let's go and take a look at SOLIDWORKS here. Alright, so we've got our new tab showing up here on the top right there. As far as the settings go and the setup goes, it's a little confusing at first, but as long as you realize, okay, everything that's display quality stuff is going to be stored over on this Display Manager tab. The very first option that I was looking at was the scenes, lightings, and cameras. Again, we still have the same information that I was talking about, but in addition to that, we also have a decal button, and I'll show you that here in a moment. And then we also have our appearances set up here as well. So we actually have the ability of looking at all the appearances of an entire assembly or an entire part, and we have the ability of sorting it either by apply history, alphabetically, off the material, or the hierarchy. Hierarchy essentially is the way that parts or appearances and textures will override. Part level being the lowest level, then feature overrides that, face overrides that, and then if we applied a material at the assembly level, you would also see that show up as well. In fact, let's go and do one here real quick. I'm going to switch over to my appearances tab on my task pane over on the far right. Go and expand out. Go and grab one of the aluminum materials. Let's move this up a little bit. Notice that we do have a lot more graphical spheres showing the materials. A lot better way of seeing them. I can go and take my icon, drag it over, drop it onto a part. Then we have our different levels of applying it. I can apply it just to a single face, a feature, a body, the part level, or a assembly override. Let me show you that one more time here. So if I grab another material, drag that over, drop it on the face, but when I release, I get this option right near my cursor. And I'll go and do an assembly override here. One of the things that shows up in our hierarchy tree is we do see our material, and we also see what part it's associated to. Same thing with our faces or even our features. We can see that certain things are overridden at that level. I do want to point out that those materials aren't locked down as far as the color. It's essentially just lighting conditions and characteristics and stuff. And again, this is just a quick preview here. Go ahead and edit appearance, and I'll go and pick out a different color there. So this is still using the textures of that that other material, but then all the lighting conditions are coming over from the original material, and then we're applying the color change to it. So real quickly, you can change materials and information there. Let's see, let's go and take a look at decals here real quick. Always a good idea to apply decals at the part level because it gives you the best control. I'm going to open up this part directly here. A couple of different ways of applying decals. Essentially, if we switch over to our Appearances tab, we do have some decals that show up down here below. You can create your own. They fall into a standard EPS format. Let me bring that up. Or sorry, not EPS. P2D format is the standard that they use. Okay. And I'll just go and drop a real quick one onto the surface there, just to see something show up in our tree up at the assembly level. So I'm going to switch back to my assembly, and we can see the decal show up there. We'll get into more decals there later. I'm going to go and delete that one for the time being. And again, Control Q is a good universal refresh. After I deleted, the decal was still showing up, so I wanted to get rid of that. Let's see, let's go back to the slide here. Like I mentioned before, Photoview360 is at the SOLIDWORKS Professional or the SOLIDWORKS Premium. Shows up as an add-in. With 2011, it's integrated into SOLIDWORKS now. It's no longer the separate standalone application. They consider a progressive renderer, and you'll see that come up here in a little bit. It will make use of HDR or high dynamic range images for backgrounds. Most of those scenes that you guys have seen, things like the kitchen and the factory and that type of stuff, those are stored as HDR. So if you have one of those done as a spherical map, you can use them to replace one of the default ones. Also, Photoview360, it's multi-core scalable, meaning that it'll actually handle multiple cores. I did read somewhere that if you have a machine with more physical cores, it's better than a single core that's been hyper-threaded. I've seen some quad-core processors that have actually been hyper-threaded, so it shows up as 8. But Photoview will make use of the physical cores as well. So depending on when you're looking at a machine, that's also one of the things to look at. In fact, I do want to bring up a couple of things. Let me bring up a web page here. So solidworks.com. If we go into the support group, system requirements, and down to benchmarks. If you do go out looking for a video card, make sure that it's on SOLIDWORks' approved testing list. If it's not on the list, we have troubleshooting issues with it, so make sure that it is on the approved list. But I'm going to go into the benchmarks, and again, benchmarks is new for 2011. And there's this new link called Share Your Scores. And this is where people that have actually run the benchmark testing on their machine that shows up in the SOLIDWORKS RX. Start menu, all programs, SOLIDWORKS directory, SOLIDWORKS tools. So launch the SOLIDWORKS RX, you'll see the add-on tabs, and there's a performance test program there. So these scores are actually from that program, benchmarking. And again, these being other people's machines, they list them by the CPU, graphics, I/O. Typically, I/O is read-write speeds of hard drives, and then also rendering. So take a look at this list, see what everybody else is running, because it lists video cards, it lists processors, RAM, and also the chip type. So it's a really good. I take that back. Actually, it doesn't list the RAM there. That's surprising. But processor and video card, which are mostly the key ones. If you're dealing with large assemblies, obviously you want to put as much RAM as budget will allow into the machine. But see what everybody else is running. Let's see. Let's go back to the slide here. Photoview360, for those that aren't aware of it, came from a Gold Partner program from Luxology. Luxology developed a program called Moto. Moto is actually the basis for Photoview360. I believe Moto is still a fully developed Gold Partner product as well. So if you need something above and beyond, you might take a look at Moto from Luxology. Okay, so back on the slide here, render tool tab. So there's a new tab, and we'll take a look at it because there's some limited capacity there. And then also we'll start taking a look at the preview window versus integrated preview. All right, so let's go and switch back to SOLIDWORKS. And I did want to point out that the Display Manager tab is available for all users, not just SOLIDWORKS standard users now. So you do get the appearances, you do get decals now with just SOLIDWORKS standard. You don't have to turn on the Photoview add-on. Same thing with all the lightings and backgrounds. That's all part of standard now. So the reason they did that is just to allow people that develop things be able to still work, well, collaboration essentially, everybody else to work on it. The new tab, I'm going to right-click over one of the tabs up here at the top of my command manager. I'm going to turn on Render Tools. We're going to switch over to that tab. So again, appearances, scenes, decals. So I could also edit decal and go browse for a decal right from here. I can also edit the scenes. We'll talk about this a little bit more later. And then also the appearances as well. Another thing to point out, our display pane is still there. So assembly tab, the double arrow here. We do still have the display pane. For those that haven't gone through our advanced class, real quick run through. The first column is indicating whether a part is visible or hidden. Second one is the display style. Third one is the appearances. If you're in an assembly, if you have a triangle in the lower right corner, that's going to be the assembly or the part color, not the assembly color. If you have a triangle in the upper left, that's going to be an assembly overwrite color. Okay. And then the last column is going to be your transparency level, if that's set at the assembly level. For example, if I wanted to take this power cord, set it transparent, I could actually easily do that at this level. Notice that it turned on the transparency, also did a color overwrite there to make it look good there. Okay. Alright, so let's go and get the Photoview add-on turned on here. So I'm going to hit the down arrow next to my options, go add-ins. This is one way of turning it on. Okay, I'm going to turn it on there. I'm going to actually go a little bit easier here. I switch over to my Office Products tab, and then I have a button there just to toggle the Photoview add-in on. Mind you, you do also still have real view graphics and shadows. So if I didn't have Photoview turned on, we'll switch that back off again. We can still have things in a rendered and shadowed. And again, if you have a card that's on the approved list, you'll have better odds of being able to support that type of stuff. Alright, let's see. Okay, so let's get that Photoview add-on turned on. Go back to our Display Manager tab. And let's go and start talking about some of the options here. Oh, you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go back and let's talk about the preview window and integration window. So I'm going to switch over to my render tab. Notice the rest of the icons are turned on now. I'm going to open up another part here. R key brings this up if you didn't know that. I'm going to bring up this assembly. Alright, so this is a part that I was working on earlier. Two different ways of getting a preview of the photo view. If I do integrated preview, give it a moment for it to catch up to me. This essentially is what the standalone Photoview360 standalone program would do. It allows you to actually work in an almost rendered state. As I rotate the model, you'll see that it will update. As I zoom in, it goes fuzzy, and then as you leave it a little bit longer, it'll start rendering a little bit quicker there and get a little more fine detail. So that's the integrated one. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. I'm going to turn that off. We do also have a preview window. This was something that the PhotoWorks add-in had, essentially a separate window that you could open up. This one's a little bit easier because I can put that off on the second screen or off to the edge there, and then as I rotate my model, you'll see that that preview updates a little bit quicker. There is one other option here that I want to point out. Close that here for a moment. Let's go back to regular view. If I come up to my view orientation and I go and do a two view vertical and I split it into two separate windows, I'm also going to come back in here and unlink the views, okay? Just so that I can rotate and get one at the specific orientation that I wanted. So I'm going to go back to that orientation for this view. And in fact, I'll go and hide my task pane there by the three arrow tab there. Move that over into position. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this window as my integrated preview. So I'll go and let that start rendering there. But then over on the other side, I can go through and I can make changes, do whatever I want over on this side, and then I'll see those changes show up on the left side. And again, it depends on which window is active when you actually turn it on, so you can see that the button toggles on depending on which view is active. Let's see, let's go and bring this back out here again. Get that over so where I can see it. Some of the other stuff to point out is, let's do a preview window here. So I'm gonna, and let's go and get rid of my two view there. Alright, so I've got my preview. One of the nice features with PhotoView being integrated now is the fact that I actually do have the ability of doing explode views. I also have the ability of doing configurations and also display states as well. Alright, so you'll see my SOLIDWORKS in the background, the preview in the foreground. I can go and right click over my explode view, go and do explode. My explode happens right away in SOLIDWORKS, but then also my preview will update. Alright, so I'll go and switch over to a different display state. Again, you can see that the display state shifts there. And you see the preview update. I can go and collapse, and then I'll see my preview update. Perspective option is still available. It's not defaulted on. It's just one of those things that's actually stored with the part file. I believe you might be able to actually open up your template, turn it on for the template, and then save it. But I'd have to check on that. That'd be one of those things. Perspective is essentially if you're wanting to get a, like if you have a longer part, or let's see, let's rotate this around here and zoom in. So that we actually get a tapering off into the distance there as the part goes. And again, that shows up over in the perspective there. Okay. Alright, let's see. Oh, yeah, going back to the appearances there. So, again, I have the ability of switching to a different display state, letting the preview window catch up to me. Transparencies I found do take a little bit more time. So that might be something for a different video card. Look at the scores sheet to see who's got a really good video card for rendering. And again, I can still do the explode there. Obviously, animate explode wouldn't work in the preview window. it's an all or nothing for the preview window. I'll talk about animations here as we get through this. Alright, let's go and switch back to the slide here. Okay, so now we're starting into a few different slides here of the Photoview360 options, and I'll show you where that's at here in a moment. But I want to point out, as you push the render quality, final render quality, as you push that higher, obviously it's going to take more time, but you also end up with better lighting conditions, better textures, that type of thing. This is an example out of the help file. That actually kind of shows you, okay, good quality, 29 seconds, best, 2 minutes, 19 seconds, and then we get it all the way up to 6 minutes. And again, this depends on machine, depends on what's in the image, so there's a lot of other factors on that. Typically, I leave the preview render quality as good, just so that it doesn't take a long time for it to catch up to me, but then render quality, I usually push that up a little bit higher. And then we get into the output settings. We can change the aspect ratios, we can have it fixed, we can also have a default format type as well. So let's go and switch over to SOLIDWORKS and take a look at that. Alright, so I'm going to close out of my preview. Let's go and get the Blender back open here again. Two ways of getting to the options. We can either go up onto our Render Tools toolbar, or we also get a options button right here. Okay. Options all show up in the property dialog, so it's all real convenient. If you're used to SOLIDWORKS, this is what we're used to. So we have some predefined ones, so we can do like a 16:9 HD, HD low, and then lower quality there. We can also fine tune it. We can also do different aspect ratios, default formats. The PNG, TIFF, those do support alpha channel output now, so if you're needing to take this over to another machine or another program for some type of tech illustration, or if you're going to drop it into a PowerPoint and you want your object to float in front of the text, then you'd want to probably do like a TIFF or a PNG. Default image locations. Okay. Let's see, the next one down, let's go and go back. Oh, yeah, this is the render quality. So, render preview, this would be either the integrated preview or the preview window would be this option, so that's the one I usually set to low. If you have a machine that can handle it, you can push the final render quality up to max. Just realize it's going to take a while for it to render. On an old system that I had, I actually did a test on it, and I've actually had one take over a couple hours. The gamma, essentially just the a lighting effect as far as the output goes. Okay. Let's switch back to our slide here so we can talk about some of the other items in the 360 options here. If you're used to the standalone item, we also have an option called Bloom. Bloom is essentially if you have a light source, an LED source, or a really reflective like chrome material that's reflecting one of the lights directly at, it'll actually create that haze going around the light. You can see that around this vehicle render here in the bottom left. The two different options, the bloom set point and the bloom extents, determine the set point is the threshold that it actually will start doing the bloom effect. So if you set that a lot lower, then we get a bloom that starts a little bit earlier. The extents is essentially how far out from that object that the bloom effect will go. So this is just a few examples. Mainly look at the top light strip. You'll see going across the top. You can also see some slight effects into the bottom tray there, but mainly look at the top bar there. This one set point 100, meaning hardly at all detected, or almost not at all, and then extends 2 being very rare, little. So that's bloom. Let's see. Let's go to the next one here. This one is render or contour render. Essentially, if I set the line thickness on a object to a white, essentially it's our tangent edges. Sometimes you want to do this for like a tech illustration or something to that effect, or maybe you want it to be a little more dramatic of where those curves are, or if you leave it off, then you get the true rendered effect there. So that's the contour rendering there. Okay. And again, that shows up just below our bloom effect that we just talked a little bit ago. So that's the contour rendering. Couple of things to point out too before I get too ahead of myself. There is a dynamic help checkbox at the top up here. So as you bring your cursor over certain areas, it'll actually give you dynamic help showing off to the right side there. So it'll tell you what, okay, bloom set point. Okay, what is bloom extents? So keep an eye out for these in the photo view. They've actually done this on a few of the dialogues. And again, that's the dynamic help checkbox at the top. And like all of SOLIDWORKS features and functionality, there is the in context help, or the dynamic help question mark up there at the top right there, the property dialog. Okay, so we got bloom, contour rendering. I'll just do that one real quick just so you can kind of see the effect there. I'm going to set this to maybe a red color there. And again, I do need to accept and then bring up my render preview window here. Let's see, I need to change one other thing here. Yeah, you can kind of see a little bit of a red hint there. I think I've got my environment overriding it at the moment. Alright, so I'm going to turn that off here for a moment. Let's see, the last one here, let's bring this closer to the top here. Direct Caustics. This is something that they just added with the 2011 Service Pack 1, and there's actually no help just yet for it. If you do have a login to the SOLIDWORKS knowledge base, so solidworks.com, log in, go into the customer portal website, and then knowledge base, you'll actually get a good description of Direct Caustics. Direct Caustics is essentially it's the refraction of light through a lens or a clear material. So I've got two slides to kind of illustrate this. This first one is moving the light source. So the lens is stationary, the floor is stationary. They're just taking the lens and moving it farther away. Watch the image there on the bottom on the floor there, so you can kind of see it transitioning as the caustic amount is changed there. I'll go back here just so you can kind of see it again. Oh, that's the previous slide. And then moving through it. So this is moving the light away from the light source, or from the object there. Going over to the next slide here. This is a fixed light position, but changing the index of refraction, essentially the caustic quality. And again, there's a few slides that I've got here of that. So essentially it's changing the focus point of that. Notice how the shadow on the outside is staying consistent, but it's just the focus point of the light itself that it's changing. So that's a new item that they added with Service Pack 1 and on. So make sure that you have that Service Pack to get that option there. Alright, so let's get into appearances. A couple of things to look at. We still have the same appearances that we're used to using, but we also have mapping, illumination, and surface finish from the Photoworks side of things. Let me switch over to SOLIDWORKS here so that it's a little bit easier to see and understand. Let's see. Let's bring up. So let's close out of that. Let's switch over to this other model here. Let's go and collapse that down. Alright, so let's just take a look at, well, let's see, let's go to the part color. So I'm just going to open up one of these parts directly. Appearances, for those that haven't been using them or haven't gotten used to them, this has been around, this method has been around for like the 2008, 2009, 2010 releases. Expanding out my display pane, quick way of viewing where the material is applied at the top level, or if you saw like a specific feature that applied that material there. Lots of different ways of getting into it. In fact, let's go and do a different way here. Let's go up to our appearances. I'm just going to grab a plastic material off. I'm going to grab this red. Notice drag and drop appearances in the model or feature tree. Use the Alt drag to immediately edit, or pre-select items to apply to multiple areas at once. So that's kind of a good little note to read from time to time. So the normal way that we're used to is if I drag and drop that onto there, I get my little options there if I want to apply it to a face, feature, body, or the entire part. If I do the Alt drag and drop it onto the surface there, notice that it takes me into my appearances dialog on the left automatically. Cancel out of that here. And again, I'll go to my display pane. I can also click on my icon in the appearances column there, click on that, go to appearances, and it gets me into that same dialog. One more option here though. I can also click on the part itself and then also go to either the face, body, part, feature level. So I can also come in here and actually go into the appearances there. Basic, available to everybody. If we switch over to the advanced, we actually get 4 tabs in the advanced when we have Photoview360 turned on. Give me 1 sec, I'll cancel out of this and I'll turn off Photoview real quick and then go back in one more time. Oh, my mistake. I was thinking we're talking about scenes. When we get to scenes, you'll actually see that there's a transition there. Bear with me. I'll just turn that back on here again. And let's go and do another drag and drop here to drop on a material. Alright, so basic information, color, that type of thing, whether it's being assigned to this display state or all display states. If you're not familiar with display states, good idea to read up on them, or we do have a few other webcasts that actually go into display states. Allows you to set a visual characteristic property that only applies to that specific state or display state. Let's see. I'm going to do a different material here. Let's go out. I'm going to grab a cast aluminum. I'll drag and drop that on. Notice that I get the texture showing up there. As I scroll down, the textures and appearances, or textures and colors, are merged in appearances now. So you don't have separate textures, separate colors. You actually have appearances that are both. The advantage of that is the fact that I can actually switch the color underlining the texture there. So I can actually get a color quality change to a different level there. Or different background. If I switch over to the mapping, I can also change the orientation of it, or the size of it as well. If I did like a JPEG image mapped onto it, I could actually rotate that around. Illumination. This actually goes quite a bit into different transitions. I can actually do a blur effect with it, so I can actually have the model blur out any reflection. So if I have that turned on, items aren't reflected as much. Obviously this one doesn't do it as well because of the material. But then I can also specify whether the light's going to be diffused, if it's going to speculate out, and again, dynamic help there. Controls the intensity of the light, making the surface appear shinier. Okay, so you can actually change that. Specular spread, so you can get that satin finish look to it. In fact, let's see, let's go and, well, I'll get to that here in a moment. Reflective amount, so if you want a part to actually emit light, more like LEDs and panels and that type of stuff. And then you also have another control for actually increasing the light. So reflective amount being outside source, and then we actually have its own internal source that we can actually increase as well. Photoview does give you the option to do material double-sided. I think that really would only apply if you had a surface body there. Could be corrected on that, but surface finish, you also have the ability of changing some basic surface textures that it's pulling from. So I can grab from a file if I wanted to, but I could switch over to a burnish. And again, this is pulling some of the other information from the colors and that type of stuff. Neural, so I've got lots of that, and then I can also rotate the angle at which that pattern is, and then also the scale of it and bump strength of it. So if I wanted to actually stand a little proud, let's see, let's go up to cast aluminum here again, so I could actually increase the bump strength. This really plays a role when I've got the preview window on. Give me one sec. Again, kind of a reason you want to have the preview on when you're doing some of these changes, just so that you can keep track of what's really happening to it. So if I reduce the bump strength there, you can kind of see that it smooths out a little bit. Or distance, sorry, that was the distance. Let's change the bump strength there. There we go. So now it's more of a smoother finish there. Alright, let's see. Let's go and open up another part here, just to take a look at something else here. Let's go and open up. Yeah, so this would be another case where you might do a integrated preview. So if I wanted to turn my left pane into an integrated preview, and then I could also come over here and bring materials in. I'm going to start out with maybe a sandblasted aluminum, drop that on, apply it to the entire part, see the update change there, but then now I can go through and go and change the color of it. So if I wanted to shift it over to maybe a yellow color, and then maybe decrease the lighting and also the diffuse amount. Maybe reflective amount, make it a little bit darker there as well. Let's rotate that up just a little bit. And if I want to select features, I'm going to select two features out of my tree there. Go over to my appearances library here. I'll go and grab maybe car paint, and then I'll just double click on my material, so that now gets applied to those two features. If we go to the display pane, you'll see that the material or appearances show up on those two features there. And all the while my preview window is showing up or updating. If I wanted to apply something just to some surfaces here, so if I wanted to change the top level, held control down to pick all those faces, and then I can go and set those maybe to a white. Again, all the while my preview window is catching up to me here. Let's see. Oh, also, yeah, just for a moment here, let me bring up system information on this. So this particular machine is actually it's a Dell Precision 1500, 8 gigs of RAM. It's an i7 processor, but it's hyper-threaded, so it's a quad-core, but it shows 8 cores. And then we're running the 64-bit OS. And let's see, I also wanted to show the video card. So we're running a Quattro FX 580. So this particular machine by no means is all that powerful, so that's why I'm sticking more to the parts. When you get into the assembly level, then you want to start looking at those scores and see what other people are running for the higher level there. Okay, so let's switch over to scenes here now. Let's see, let's go and save that. Let's go back to our Blender here. Your basic scenes are stored on your scenes drop down. We do have the ability of coming over to our display manager tab, and then we can edit our backgrounds and our scenes. The lighting sets are actually stored or controlled by let's see, I believe it's the environment that actually controls the lighting set. I believe. Hold on one sec. Let me switch to a different lighting scenario here. Yeah, so you can see over on the left there that my lighting is actually changing based off of which setting I'm switching to as far as my different scenes there go. Typically, what you would want to do is find a setting that you're wanting to go with, and then get all your lighting set up for that particular part file, or you could also do that with your template as well too, and open up your part template, have different lighting for those different environments. Let's see, let me go back to the 3-point. Okay. And let's go and turn off, let's go back to our kitchen environment. Most of us are used to, as soon as we switch to a scene, we're used to seeing the background change. But that's all dependent upon our display manager tab. So if we come up to our scenes, let's see, we'll talk about lighting a little bit more here later. If I right click and I edit scene, in fact, hold on one second, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's get over to the next slide. There we go. Alright, so scenes. Let's see, background. There's different stages. No background color, solid color, gradient background, image. So if you wanted to bring in a solid, like a solid image background, you could do that also. You could also do environments, or use the environment for the background as well. The environment itself is the spherical map of the HDR file. So this is actually a flat pattern, or a flat view of that kitchen scene. So this is an HDR, so you'd have to have something that a third-party program that could modify those if you're wanting to create your own. Typically, you just want to stay with your traditional ones that are in SOLIDWORKS itself, but for the advanced user, you can modify those. You also have basic and advanced tabs without Photoview. With the Photoview, you also get the illumination turned on. And let's see, let's go and go into scenes here now. Alright, so let's go back to our Blender. Alright, so if we don't have Photoview turned on, we get the basic and advanced tabs, and we'll look at those. If we turn Photoview on, then we can use the illumination tab. So let's go and take a look at those. Background, so if I wanted to use the environment, I could actually real easily switch to the background to use that environment map. Again, this one is currently using the kitchen one. Again, you see that HDR. Back up to image, though, I could actually go and browse for a regular image if I wanted to. So if I wanted to go out and grab something off of the internet, or if you took a photo or something, you could use those image files. Again, higher the resolution, the better. You can turn on floor reflections, so if I turn that on, you can see that it's reflecting. I can shut that off. If I turn off shadows, it also turns off the floor reflections. So you do have to have shadows with the floor reflections. Alignment, you can also force the alignment to shift. So if our part is turned sideways or something, I can actually shift it to a different orientation if I wanted to. I do also have the ability of controlling where the floor is at, so that controls where our reflection. Let's see, let's move this up a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. So I can change where that shadow shows up. Okay. Let's see, let's pan this down here again. Switch over to the Advanced tab. Aspect ratio of the scene there. Floor size, do we want it to cover the full area? Do we want it to, or do we want it to be a specific size? So if you're doing like a tabletop and everything else is black, you could actually do that. Rotate the floor if you didn't have it auto-sized. Realistically, what we're wanting to do, because we're using an environment, is we're just going to rotate the environment around. Notice that my model stays at the same aspect ratio, or the same orientation, but then I'm just rotating my model around. I'll go and zoom it down and maybe position, well, let's go and put it a little bit forward on the foreground here. And again, I'm just using my mouse to scroll to zoom in and out, and then Control held down in the middle mouse button to pan over. Okay. Getting into the illumination side of things, we can actually have the environment give more of a lighting effect. So let's see. This one actually shows better if I have the preview window going on here. Another thing to point out, always use your preview window for positioning, because see how I'm over in this one area, but yet the finished preview is actually over on the other side. So yeah, let me go back into my scenes here again. Alright, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit, rotate my environment a little bit more. Oops, a little bit too far there. And go and pan my model over here a little bit. There we go. Alright, so now it may not look right on the SOLIDWORKS environment, but and again, this has a little bit to do with your PhotoView render size versus what you're actually seeing on the screen. So if you're doing like a 16:9 render size versus what you're physically viewing in SOLIDWORKS, it's going to throw that aspect ratio off a little bit. So that's why we're distorted. If you had your PhotoView settings set to use SOLIDWORKS view, then it would be more accurate. Alright, illumination, here we go. Alright, so again, background brightness, so we can actually make it look like it's sunnier than it really is. We can also, the render brightness, so we can change the model so it actually picks up on some of that lighting. And I can also change the scene reflectivity, so if I want it also to pick up more information from the lighted environment there. Okay. Actually, one other thing, let's go and go back to the appearance here. I'm going to go and edit the material of that blender. And under illumination, I'll go and turn on the blur reflections there, just so it actually gives us more of a satin finish instead of a true chrome finish. Alright, so let's move on to the next slide here. So we've got decals to talk about real quick. Like I mentioned before, they're available for everyone, not just PhotoView users. One of the things that early on that we've been seeing is to actually apply the decals only to the parts that are going to be visible in that particular object that's going to be viewed. Decals are, well, there's two ways of dealing with the decals, either embedded in the part files, and I'll show you that option here, or linked to an external file, and I'll show you that also. Alpha channel support now, so if you actually bring in a decal that's got an alpha channel, you can either bring that as in a separate file, or you can actually pick a selective mask as well. So yeah, let's go and take a look at decals here. Alright, so back to the Blender. I'm going to turn that off for a moment. Open up the part, and again, like I mentioned before, always a good idea to apply your decals at the part level. The decals in the Appearances tab are some of the default ones that comes with SOLIDWORKS. Let's see, let's do... If I just take that, drag it, and drop it onto the model, you'll see that this particular one was set up with the image itself and its mask. Notice that the file name is a underscore mask of the original, so we could have it mask the outside area. Switch over to the Mapping tab, and we'll do another decal here in a moment. I can go and rotate that around, and then I can grab the corners there. For this type of object, always a good idea to set it for label. A lot of the times it'll come in as spherical or cylinder as far as the mapping style. If you're doing a sphere or cylinder, then okay, you might want to pick that mapping style. But I find that the label works for probably about 80% of everything that you'd be doing. You can also use the scrolls here to control the size of the model as well. You can also distort it if you unlink the aspect ratio. Talk about illumination here in a moment. Alright, so I'm going to cancel out of that decal. Let's go and bring in another decal. So I'm going to go Edit Decal. And so that gives me the ability of just doing a straight adding a decal here. So Image tab, go and browse for my part. Let's see, let's go... Okay, so this is just a bitmap, no image mask. Go and open that. Mind you, you could set it read only if you didn't want to modify or have anything go back to the original file. Typically, bitmaps are read only, anyways. But there was no image mask. But what I can do is I can do a selective color, and then grab my little eyedropper and pick the color up in the preview there. And that becomes the mask there. Oh, I need to pick the surface here to apply it to. Alright. Or you could also use, if there's alpha channels built into the part, I could also use that as well. Alright, so let's see, selective color mask. And let's see, mapping. Go and switch over to a label style. And rotate that 180. Let's see, and the button that I'm missing here, there's actually an option to do have it mapped to the size of the part there. Forgot where that's at. Oh, here we go. Fit to height selection. There we go. Oh, that's a little bit too big. Let's go to width selection. Yeah, there we go. So you can actually have it auto size based off of where the surface that you're applying that to. Illumination with the decal here. We actually have a fair amount of options here. I want to get to a steeper angle here, and one of the ones that I find really interesting is the fact that we can actually have the decal actually do a reflective amount. Oh, let me get my subnet mask set up here again. Let's see, image, oh, alpha channel. Bear with me here for a sec. let's see. Well, I'm having a little bit of trouble getting that to reflect correctly. It's actually moving, reflecting the whole thing. The subnet mask isn't setting up quite right there. Oh, you know what? Oh, never mind. It's my diffuse and specular amount. There we go. That's a little bit better. Well, as you can see, you could spend days in here playing with all the different options. But what I was kind of shooting for is just so that I can actually get a reflective. Just because my mask isn't set up right, my whole label is actually reflecting there. Alright, so we're going to accept that. And let's see, let's go back up to our assembly here. And then you can see the decal shows up on there. It also shows up in our tree now here again as well. Okay. Shows us that it's buttons was the original file, and then also the face there. Okay. Alright, let's see, moving on to the next slide. Let's start talking about lighting a little bit. Okay, so when I brought in that kitchen environment, we actually did the scene illumination. So that's essentially a great way of actually bringing in a sun effect and that type of thing. This is also a spotlight turned on in the background. Ambient is just regular light, not directional. Then you have directional to get into specific areas for general but more specific. And then you get into the spotlights, which get into more of the pinpoint lighting. The settings that I have off to the right there is what I set for the spotlight to look like a sun effect off to the side there. So push up the brightness, drop the soft edges, turn the shadows on, but didn't have so you can have a light cause a shadow or not cause a shadow. But then you can also push up a fog percentage, so it actually fuzzes the model out a little bit. There's also light points, so if you wanted to view a point of light on an object. The other thing too is you can take an appearance material, mainly because it has a material that emits light. You can actually have it give off light. So besides the regular lighting, you can also take a part that you create and turn that into a light source, LEDs and that type of stuff. So, all right, so let's switch back over to SOLIDWORKS here. In fact, let me do that LED one here first. I'm just going to turn one of these surfaces to the LED material. So I go into my appearances, grab out my lights, LED, so you can see some of the predefined ones there. So if I grab out an amber, I'll hold the Alt down and drop that on. And I just want to apply it to that face. Nope, I might have an override that's occurring here. Well, I'll have to go in through here. There we go. So most of that's mostly because of the amount of transmission and effect that particular light is actually giving off there, that particular object. So rather than chrome, we're actually doing the LED there. Alright, so if I go back up to the assembly, let's talk about more of the lighting here. So we had the scene lighting that we talked about for illumination, and then we have, let's see, so that also shows up as a lighting condition. Also have ambient. Notice that you do have the two different icons for your directional and your spotlights, or sorry, your directional, so you can actually have it on for SOLIDWORKS and off for the photo view. I turn off my preview here. Okay, there we go. Alright, so if let's move this down, we can see both at the same time. So if I right click, tell it off for SOLIDWORKS, you can see that the model gets real dark, but the photo view preview stays the same. So if I switch that back on and switch it off for photo view, let's see, off, there we go. There we go. So you can actually see that it gets a little bit darker based off of that particular light. I'm going to go and turn the other one off here also. Looks like my options are actually switched on me here too. So, but I've got both of those switched off now for just photo view. And notice nothing's occurring over on my SOLIDWORKS side. Other options here, if I do a edit all lights, takes me into a dialog that I can cycle through all the different lights that I currently have on the model. So I have little arrows going back and forth here, so I can switch over my basic scene, my photo illumination, so I can change the environment there. With the directional lights, you got your basic tab and then also your photo view tab. So if you want that on for photo view, and then you can change its specific intensity for photo view. Switch over to my spot. You can also change the light source color. So I could have that pick out a yellow color projecting onto it if I wanted to do more of a incandescent light source. You can also turn on the light positioning, which actually, let me show you that here. If I go up to my view menu, turn on lights, and zoom out, I can actually see where my light cans are actually at. So you can change that through a Cartesian plane or a spherical coordinate system. So if you actually wanted to change, let's see, let's switch over to the directional and do that. So photo view, oh, let's see, basic, there we go. So I can actually change where that light source is at. Zoom into my model here a little bit. Again, this is how it's affecting the spotlight. Spotlight we set to a yellow there. Let's go and shift that to back to white here. And again, you could change where that directional light source might be coming from. Okay. And cycles back to the beginning there. And I'll go and turn off the lights there. Oh, let's see, let's also do the preview window here and zoom in on those little LEDs here. And again, if I do bloom effect, I could actually get a little radiant color or radiant fuzz going around the buttons. So it could act as if it was actually on there. Alright, so let's see. Next slide. Yeah, we're running a little bit over here. I apologize for the length here. There's just so much stuff to cover, so we'll probably end up doing additional Photoview360 webcasts down the road too. So animations, you can actually do rendered animations with the photo view now in 2011. Before, you couldn't get to that. I'll go and bring that up here. And let's see, let's also, oh yeah, so let me bring that up. So if I come down to a motion study, and let's see, let's just do a real basic one here. Let's just use the animation wizard to rotate this one. Okay, so I've got a basic rotation of the model. Okay, and let's go and shut that environment off. Okay. Yeah, it looks like my part's getting away from me here on this animation, but so if I go to save the animation now, I have the Photoview renderer, and within that I have the ability of setting the aspect ratio for that particular rendered animation. So you can do a fully rendered animation now. Again, I always recommend to do it with the the SOLIDWORKS renderer first, and then do the Photoview renderer. That way you don't waste time on something that may not turn out correctly if your animation's not set up right. A couple other few things to get through. Cameras. We do have a few webcasts in the past that went over Photoworks. The cameras haven't changed all that much. You have the type, target point, camera position, camera rotation, field of depth. Those are actually all still the same. They haven't changed. If I go and add a camera here, you can see the camera type. The right view becomes what that camera is looking at. Left view becomes your working model. So if I move where that camera is at, and then what the camera is pointing at with the red dot, so I could actually position it specifically at a point, put the camera at a specific location, rotation, so I could actually turn the camera if I wanted to. And cameras are essentially just one step more detailed than a stored orientation. So if you're wanting a specific zoom state and a specific view, you'd want to create a camera for that. If you do just your regular little spacebar and orientation, this is not going to store your zoom state or your field of depth and that type of stuff. So if you're doing professional images and you're wanting to do that, might start using cameras just as a way of storing the orientation. It also lets you pick out like the type of lens that you're using, the field of depth. You can change the focus point. So let's see, let's change that here a little bit. And again, the in context help actually goes into a lot more detail on this, or watch one of our other webcasts. Field of depth too, so I can actually give it a specific focus point. So I could say focus here, and then everything beyond it would be fuzzed out if I wanted to. Accept that, and then again those show up as cameras here. So if I want to view from a camera, let's see, camera view, and again I can get to them also from here as well. And let's see, and that is it. Went a little long there, about 10 minutes longer than what we needed to.